From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
I'm Chris Murphy. I'm the head of the Near East section here at the Library of Congress, and I am the MC for this evening. And first, I will introduce Roberta Schaefer. Roberta is the Associate Librarian of Congress for Library Services. Library Services is essentially the National Library portion of the Library of Congress. Roberta has had a distinguished career as a librarian in various settings and as a librarian educator. Previous to her appointment as Associate Librarian for Library Services, she served as Law Librarian, that is, Director of the Library of Congress Law Library. She also served earlier in her career as Director of the Federal Library and Information Center Committee, known as the acronym FLIC, and the Federal Library and Information Network, known by the acronym FedLink, and both of those organizations are housed here at the Library of Congress. A former Fulbright scholar, Roberta has been an active member of the American Bar Association, the American Association of Law Libraries, ARMA International, which is a record management council, and the World Future Society. Furthermore, she has served as president of the International Council of Scientific Information, as well as maintaining close relationships with universities. For example, she advises the Library Science Program at San Jose State and the Information School of the University of Texas at Austin. Without further ado, I'd like to ask Roberta Schaefer to come forward.
Thank you. I'm hoping that this is not the first time for most of you, but I know that for many people it is the first time that they come when they're coming for one of our very fabulous programs. And if it is your first time, then let me just tell you that we are a bit different than many national libraries in the sense that we not only collect our own cultural heritage, but we also collect the cultural heritage of existing civilizations, cultures, and countries, as well as those that may no longer be active. And the result is that more than 60% of the library's collections are actually not in English. And depending on who you ask, we have at least 430 languages represented in our collections. And I like to say that this really reflects sort of America's attitude about the world, that we like to know about what others are thinking and doing and how they have created knowledge, and that by collecting and being aware of all of these other cultures and civilizations and in their native languages, it really enables us to make this a more important asset, not only for the American people, but for the world community. And so we are delighted, the staff who are represented here tonight, to be the shepherds of such a wonderful mission. And we welcome you to our world of not only books, but maps, movies, manuscripts, and all kinds of other forms or containers of knowledge. And we also have a very active digital presence. So if you are visiting us tonight from afar, please don't feel that you cannot be in close connection with us. You always are really just a click away from us on a very, very rich website that we are constantly building. And I also want to say that I think we have a fair number of connections to the Kazakh people. And by that I mean that we too have a very diverse population, as I know you do. We have very diverse geography, as I know you do. And we also like to pride ourselves, as I believe you do, on being a place that ideas are tolerated, and particularly that there is religious freedom. The final thing, and perhaps the thing that most people today know about this region in America is the very, very rich resources, natural resources that are contained within your borders. And that is something that you also share with the United States, a nation that is really blessed with natural bounty, and that it can then become the basis of commercial and economic viability. And so we love being connected, and we also are quite proud of the large amounts of Kazakh collections that we do have in the Library of Congress collections. We think that our collection is probably among the largest in the world, and we actually have a number of significant literary figures contained in the collection. So we believe that we are capable of supporting very high-level research here at the Library of Congress. And that is a great point of pride, that someone could come here and study another culture alongside our culture, alongside another culture. And so you get the idea of how we see ourselves. We also think that we have one of the strongest collections of serials or journals and periodicals in the United States. And this is also a great point of pride because many new ideas are first introduced in journals and periodicals. We are very happy that you are a partner within a program that the Library of Congress started, but is now overseen by UNESCO. And this is the World Digital Library that invites over 150 partners from around the world to mount on a shared website or portal what you consider exemplars of your culture and your history. And these are brought together, and we're particularly happy to report to you that many, many school children from all over the world consult this World Digital Library, or WDL, as a way of learning about other cultures and comparing cultures to each other. One area that we would love to see our own collections strengthened in, and so I would like to sort of end on this note and put perhaps an idea in your head, is with government publications. And so we would love to strengthen our collections, and if you can assist us in any way, we will gladly give you that homework assignment at the end of this program. But without further ado, I'd like to just say how delighted we all are that we're here this evening to really celebrate a terrific gift. And I'm looking forward to the program and to meeting you individually thereafter. So welcome to the Library of Congress, and please don't make it your last visit. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. Now, we are honored not only to have Ambassador Suleymanov, but also we have Ambassador Umarov, who is the ambassador accredited to the United States from Kazakhstan. Mr. Ambassador, if you would.
Thank you very much for giving an opportunity to speak. Actually, I was not planning to say anything, but since I'm giving such a chance, I would like just to greet everybody who is in this audience for your coming. I'm sure that today's event would be of great interest because we have such a person of big caliber, the thinker, the poet, a great organizer of the first public movement in Kazakhstan during the Soviet period. It was anti-nuclear movement, Nevada Semipalatinsk, and I was happy to be a part of this movement, and I worked also to close the nuclear testing site in the at that time, Soviet Union, on the territory of Kazakhstan. And it was a very exciting time. It was a very, the time when public was very much supportive of this initiative, which Olžas Sулейменов actually started in the Writers' Union in 1989. And of course, I'm not just saying that he is known all over, not only Kazakhstan, but beyond Kazakhstan as a great poet who has been known for many, many years, and he is known very well by people. I just would like to thank, of course, Library of Congress for having us here. And I just would like to tell you that I was here back in 1990, I think. It was even before the Soviet Union collapsed. And I came here because I learned that there is a section here which has books about Kazakhstan. And I was so much interested in that. At that time, I was just NGO representative of Nevada SMA movement, and I was here just on speaking tour from invitation of NGOs. And I came here, and I was actually at that time brought into the library and shown the stalls where the books were. And I'm just thinking, now I'm ambassador. I haven't been there. Is it allowed to visit that, or it's a restrictive area? But it was, very exceptional time, because it was so heartening for me that even at that time, the Library of Congress was collecting some books in Kazakh language from Kazakhstan. And now when we got our independence, of course, we would like to increase this number, and I'm very subjective here, saying that please take more books about Kazakhstan, what is going there, because it's becoming great collection of different authors who are writing after the independence. It's a new view on what is Kazakhstan, where we're going, and what we're dreaming of. So I hope that people who will be interested in Kazakhstan will come to the Library of Congress or use this digital service which you have just to know more about it, because we have at the embassy a lot of students who are writing to us and asking some books or some kind of information about the country. So I think that Library of Congress could be quite a good point of reference for them to come and just explore. So I would like, of course, to just taking you on this offer which you made at the end of your excellent speech. We would like to work with you and enlarge it and your collection of the books. And I'm sure that Olžas Sулейменов today will just present one of his books to your library. And we're looking forward to more books, because Mr. Suleymanov, he's working on grandiose things, And I just would like to say that his view on the world is very much different from different other approaches. He looks at the world from the point of language. And if you just can only imagine that the history of the world could be looked from this point of view, I think people just look and say, what? And it's a kind of mind-blowing thing. I hope that he will touch us upon some of the things like this in his lecture today. But I'm very excited myself. I don't have too much time to listen to lectures of Olžas Sулейменов, so I'm here to do that. So I'll be one of the humble listeners to your lecture. So with this, I would like to thank you for being with us tonight and having this event. And we are looking forward to more of this kind of events in the future. Thank you.
I'm now going to touch on two sort of bureaucratic items before I introduce Ambassador Suleymanov. The Near East section of the African Middle Eastern Division of the Library of Congress is where the Kazakh language materials reside. The European language materials about Kazakhstan reside in the general collections. So I invite you all to come to basically the Near East section in the African Middle Eastern Division and to see me, and I will try to assist you in whatever way I can with your research. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is, at the very end of Ambassador Suleymanov's lecture, provided there is time, there will be a few brief questions. If you ask a question. This whole event is being videotaped for later webcast. If you participate by asking a question, you are considered to have given your consent to have not only your remarks taped, but your image recorded and broadcast. Now, Ambassador Suleymenov is going to do two things this evening. First, he is going to present the Library of Congress with the collection of his recently translated into English, his poetry. And then, following the gift of the book, the presentation of the book, he will speak about his poetical, literary, philological work. Ambassador Suleymenov is one of the influential and very respected poets and writers of modern Kazakhstan. He is reckoned as one of the children of the 60s. This was a new wave of then Soviet intellectuals who appeared during the Khrushchev era, once the very strong restrictions of the Stalin era had been removed to a certain extent. Ambassador Suleymenov has authored 16 books of poetry and prose. His polemical novel, Azila, done in 1975, was widely debated and then withdrawn from active circulation in the middle of the Brezhnev years. This work brought him both wide recognition in his native land and difficulties with the Soviet authorities. In 1989, Ambassador Suleymenov founded the Nevada Semipalatinsk movement, which became one of the most vocal voices for the closure of all nuclear testing facilities in Kazakhstan. He also co-founded the Isyk-Kul Forum, which has been recognized as an important organization of intellectuals from the former Soviet Union. Most recently, Ambassador Suleymenov was featured in the work entitled 22 Ideas to Fix the World, Conversations with the World's Foremost Thinkers. This book was published in 2013. In that work, he gives his understanding of past geopolitical events and possible solutions to issues now facing humanity. The book that he will be presenting tonight was edited by Rafis Abazov and is entitled Green Desert, The Life and Poetry of Olžas Suleymenov. And this is the first comprehensive translation of the ambassador's poetry into English. The book provides a concise overview of the poet's rich literary heritage and serves as an introduction to the contemporary literature of Kazakhstan. For Western readers, or maybe one should say for American readers, Green Desert will serve as an introduction to an unfamiliar universe and to the vibrant poetry of the Kazakh steppe. I would now like to ask Ambassador Suleymenov to come forward.
I would like to accept this book as part of the library's collections on behalf of the American people. Thank you so much.
Окей. Дорогие друзья, спасибо за то, что собрались в этом зале.
Dear friends, thank you very much for getting together, gathering in this hall.
Я был в Библиотеке Конгресса в 1994 году, это почти 20 лет назад.
The last time I was at the Library of Congress was in 1994, almost 20 years ago.
Тогда вот как наш посол Кайрат Омаров, которого я считаю своим учеником, он приехал впервые в Америку по поручению нашего движения Невада Семипалатинска.
Actually, at that time, Kairat Umarov, the ambassador who I view as my student, came to the United States for the first time on behalf of our movement, the anti-nuclear movement Nevada Semipalatinsk.
И в 1994 году меня пригласили, какой-то очень важный фонд пригласил меня написать, поработать здесь, написать книгу о движении Невада Семипалатинск.
And back in 1994, I was invited by some very important foundation over here to come to the United States and work on a book that would actually reflect the activities of the movement Nevada Semipalatinsk, the anti-nuclear movement.
Я целый месяц работал в библиотеке Конгресса.
So I spent a whole month working here at the Library of Congress back then.
Но, увы, не об антиядерном движении я собирал материалы здесь, потому что я их и так знал. Наткнулся на работы по египтологии, такая наука была, египтология, и они меня очень сильно увлекли.
And actually, instead of searching for anti-nuclear materials, with which I was already quite familiar, because of course I had a lot of introduction to them in Kazakhstan, I came across quite accidentally the works on Egyptology. You know, there is such science called Egyptology, and in fact, what I discovered got me very excited.
И мысль моя ушла в другую сторону.
And my thoughts went astray.
Да, и я до сих пор в той стороне.
And in fact, they went in the direction in which I am still thinking.
И даже работая в ЮНЕСКО сейчас, мы осуществляем очень важный проект, который называется «Великое переселение человека в ранней истории, человека по планете».
And currently, under the auspices of UNESCO, we are working on a grandiose project that is actually called Great Resettlement of Humanity, that has to do with the early people settling throughout the planet in the early history of humanity.
Мы провели уже 3 международные конференции на эту тему, куда собирали ученых, специалистов со всего мира.
And we have already conducted 3 international conferences to which we invited multiple scientists and people who are interested in learning about this.
Первая прошла в Париже в 2008 году.
So the first of those conferences was held in Paris in 2008.
Вторая в Нью-Йорке в декабре 2011 года.
The second one in New York City in December of 2011.
Это заселение, тема была «Заселение Америки».
In fact, at that time, we dealt with the settlement of America. That was the theme of the conference.
Вот сейчас 3-я готовится. В декабре этого года состоится в Южной Корее заселение Юго-Восточной Азии.
And the third conference actually has not happened yet. It's about to happen in December of this year, and it's going to be held in South Korea, and it will have to do with the settlement of Southeast Asia.
Вот такой проект. Еще там предвидится несколько конференций в разных частях Земли. И в итоге мы издадим такой атлас великого расселения человека по планете.
So we expect that there will be more events and conferences throughout the world on the same topic, and all of this will culminate in the publication of an atlas. It will be the atlas covering the ways, reflecting the ways the planet was populated and how people were settling different areas of the world.
И выяснится, когда, какие национальности, какие расы, этносы распределились по планете.
At this point, we hope that it will become more or less clear when and what kind of ethnicities, what nationalities spread around the world.
И в итоге изменятся наши науки о человеке. Антропология, лингвистика, историография, целый каскад вот этих знаний человека о себе усовершенствуется в итоге.
So we think that the science on man, on humankind, is going to change as a consequence of all of this work, and it will impact the anthropology, the linguistics, the historiography, and other sciences pertaining to everything to do about human beings.
И одним из мощных толчков, который подвигнул меня вот на эту дорогу, это и был тот потенциал Библиотеки Конгресса, который на меня в 1994 году воздействовал мощно.
And I would say that the most powerful push, the most powerful impetus was given actually by this vast potential and vast resource of the Library of Congress, which I encountered back then in 1994.
Я попрошу госпожу Шифер передать привет доктору Веллингтону, директору. Дай Бог ему здоровья. Я его помню, он был очень энергичным, деятельным человеком.
And actually, I would like to ask Ms. Schaefer to say hello on my behalf to Dr. Billington. I remember working with him at that time. He was displaying a lot of energy. He was very, very helpful in what I was doing.
И он до сих пор директор, я очень рад, директор Библиотеки Конгресса.
I'm happy that he is still heading the Library of Congress.
Передаю ему привет.
Well, so please say hello to him.
Но в Америке первый раз я побывал, пожалуй, раньше всех казахов, я бы так сказал.
I think I visited the United States for the first time, actually before any other Kazakh showed up here.
В мае 1961 года.
That was in May of 1961.
Вот. Тогда я написал поэму о Гагарине, Юрий Гагарин.
That was the time when I
Многие
wrote.
уже и забыли это имя.
That was the time when I wrote a poem about Yuri Gagarin. A lot
Это был
of us
первый человек.
don't remember who he was, but he actually was the first man in space.
Вот. Я не уверен, что американцы помнят имена своих астронавтов.
I'm
Всех.
not so sure that Americans remember the names of their astronauts very well either.
И в России, и в Советском Союзе забыли
In Russia and in
про
the Soviet
советских
Union,
космонавтов.
they
Но-
seem to have forgotten about some of the Soviet cosmonauts.
Но имя Юрия Гагарина, оно уже не принадлежит национальной истории. Оно общечеловеческое. Это был первый человек, который вышел в космос.
But of course, the name of Yuri Gagarin doesn't
Оторвался,
belong to.
преодолел земное притяжение и вышел на высоту 88 километров.
Of course, the name of Yuri Gagarin doesn't
землей.
belong to a single nation anymore. It belongs to the whole mankind, because actually he was the first human in space. We know that he was the one who managed to overcome the power of gravity and actually go up to 88 kilometers above the surface of the Earth.
И я тоже первым из советских поэтов написал, а не только советских, вообще из пишущих написал о нем поэму. В течение одной недели вышла хорошая поэма. Вот, до
and I
сих пор
was-
считаю ее хорошей, между прочим.
And I was the first Soviet poet, and actually probably the first poet in the world, who wrote a big poem about Yuri Gagarin. It was actually quite good. It took me a whole week, and even today I still recognize that it was a good poem.
Вот, и ее сразу по телевидению, по радио, всюду процитировали и послали меня, грубо говоря, не туда, куда обычно посылают в последнее время, а в Америку.
Well, this poem became very popular. It was broadcast on TV and radio, and actually the government, that is, sent me, not where they tended to send people at that time, quite in the opposite direction. They sent me to the United States of America.
Вот, и тогда, уже не помню, 20 дней примерно ездил по Америке, выступал в университетах, происходили встречи, я рассказывал о Гагарине, хотя я с ним еще тогда не встречался.
Well, and I spent about 20 days in the United States, traveling throughout the country, meeting with multiple people, presenting information about Yuri Gagarin in various universities. I talked about Yuri Gagarin, even though at that time I did not know him personally yet.
Из Америки я прилетел в Париж.
And from the United States, I then followed up to go to Paris.
И прямо скажу, после Нью-Йорка Париж мне не понравился.
And I have to tell you directly that after visiting New York, I didn't like Paris too much.
После этих замечательных небоскребов, сверкающего стекла, город стекла, и вдруг такие зеленые статуи, позеленевшие от времени.
Well, really, after those very impressive tall skyscrapers covered with lots of glass, reflecting lots of sunshine, to come to a city which is full of those greenish-looking buildings and statues that are covered with patina, looking a little green, was not very impressive.
Вот, и от того впечатления я только-только вот в течение 10 лет, что я живу в Париже, я только-только избавляюсь от того первого ощущения.
I have to tell you that first impression of Paris was so strong that it has taken me almost 10 years to get over it. I've been living in Paris for almost 10 years now.
Открываю Париж.
I keep opening, discovering
Он
Paris
так
to
же
myself.
богат, как Библиотека Конгресса.
Of course, it is very rich. It's as rich as the Library of Congress.
Чувствами,
It's very rich in
собранными со всей
feelings,
земли,
thoughts gathered from all over the world,
сконцентрированными вот в этом городе.
all of them being focused in this city.
Вот что я хотел сказать об этой книге,
Well,
которую
this
я
is what I
подарил.
wanted to tell you about the book that I have just presented to the Library of Congress.
Так, если будут какие-то вопросы.
I would like to answer your
Я очень
questions now.
рад повстречать здесь, вот именно в этом зале сейчас, людей, с которыми давно не виделся. Вот Арнольд сидит. 1979 года мы однажды встретились с ним в Крыму, в 1979 году. Вот, и он это не забыл, да и я помню очень хорошо.
And I have to add that I'm very happy to see some
Было
people
бы
who I have
интереснее,
known for a
если
long
бы
time.
об этом запомнила какая-нибудь девушка, сидящая здесь, но повезло нам с ним, понимаете, на эту встречу.
So I'm very happy to see here my old friends, people I met a long time ago. For example, Arnold. I met him actually in 1979 in the Crimea, and we spoke back then. I was happy to see him here. I wish there were also other people, young ladies maybe, among those who I could say I met before, but it happens to be Arnold.
Но его дочери, Маруси, вот, повезло тоже, она побывала, несколько лет работала в Алмате, как журналист от Америки. Вот. Я очень рад, что страна понравилась ей.
However, his daughter, Marusia, was very happy, very fortunate, that she visited the city of Almaty and worked there from the United States as a journalist for a while. I'm very happy that she had that opportunity.
И вот Галина сидит, супруга его, рядом.
And
Так
also
что вся семья
Galina, his
почти.
spouse, is here as well. So I'm very happy for these people.
Так что я вас всех, каждого приветствую, и новых знакомых.
I greet and welcome all of you, every single one of you present here, those who I meet for the
И
first
я
time and those who I met before.
надеюсь все-таки еще раз прикоснуться, может быть, найдем время на час-другой заглянуть в библиотеку и ту самую книгу про Египет я найду здесь. Еще раз напомню себе о том, что не осталось у меня в памяти, но ощущение такое есть, которое меня все время заставляет возвращаться к этой книге.
So I hope that actually I will have another chance, maybe for an hour or two, whatever is possible, to visit the Library of Congress and sort of have an opportunity to touch upon its collection, to refresh my memories actually of that very same book that inspired me so much, to which I keep returning in my mind. It's an important theme for me, and I would like to do that.
Но все-таки еще раз к антиядерной теме вернемся. Начиная с 1989 года, когда установились наши контакты с антиядерными движениями в Америке, мы часто стали бывать в вашей стране. Я привозил сюда делегации Верховного Совета СССР, в котором я тогда состоял. Почему? Потому что... Да, переведите.
Maybe I would like to touch upon my anti-nuclear activities a little bit as well. So back in 1989, our movement emerged, and actually it established contacts with movements of the same kind, anti-nuclear or non-nuclear movements in the United States, rather close contacts. So I and my colleagues used to visit the United States on a more or less regular basis, quite frequently. And I also, at that time, was a member of the Supreme Soviet of the USSR. And why was I a member of the Supreme Soviet? I will explain to you right now.
Мы тесно работали вместе «Врачи мира за безъядерный мир» была такая организация, она есть. Парламентарии за глобальные действия, Greenpeace и другие организации, которые мы потом призвали в глобальный антиядерный альянс. Мы создали в 1991 году, в начале 1991 года, мощное такое антиядерное движение общечеловеческого масштаба. Все страны, Япония, Франция, Америка, естественно, Советский Союз, все общественные организации вошли в этот альянс. Это была очень сильная организация.
We worked very closely to a whole plethora of movements in the anti-nuclear realm at the time. One of them was Doctors of the World Against the Nuclear World, or for non-nuclear world, and also parliamentaries of the world for non-nuclear world, and Greenpeace, and many others. And we actually managed at that time in 1991 to unite them all in one global anti-nuclear alliance, a very all-encompassing organization, which was, of course, comprised of many members, and among them were such prominent countries as Japan, France, United States, USSR, and many others. It was a very powerful alliance that we managed to create at that time that relied on a vast public support.
Но в конце 1991 года ситуация изменилась в мире, и поэтому то, что намечал глобальный антиядерный альянс, не удалось совершить сразу.
However, at the end of 1991, the geopolitical picture of the world, the situation in the world changed drastically. So the tasks that we identified for the global anti-nuclear alliance at that time could not be implemented.
Но Казахстан с тех пор стал и остается лидером антиядерного движения во всем мире.
However, since then and back then, Kazakhstan became a leader in the non-nuclear or anti-nuclear movement in the whole world.
Потому что в Казахстане все граждане практически, начиная от рядового сельчанина до президента, были настроены на то, чтобы прекратить испытания ядерного оружия в Казахстане, и добились этого. И в 1991 году президент Назарбаев поставил подпись под указом о закрытии Семипалатинского полигона.
So actually, it became possible, this leadership role of Kazakhstan in non-nuclear movement, because all citizens at all levels, at all ranks, starting from a rank and file peasant or farmer up to the presidential level, were all against the testing of nuclear weapons in Kazakhstan. And that powerful movement resulted in the fact that in 1991, the president of Kazakhstan, Nazarbayev, signed the presidential decree on closing the Semipalatinsk test range.
Почему мы назвали наше движение еще в феврале 1989 года Невада-Семипалатинск?
Now a few words about the name of this movement, Nevada-Semipalatinsk. Why already in February of 1989 we called this movement Nevada-Semipalatinsk?
Потому что мы поняли, что это два близнеца, сиамские близнецы.
We came to realize that those areas were like Siamese twins.
И я на митинге тогда, когда мы открывали это движение, создавали, я сказал, если один близнец заболеет, то и второму не поздоровится. Они очень связаны, взаимосвязаны.
At the public gathering that was dedicated to the creation of this movement back then, I said that, like it is always with Siamese twins, if one gets sick, it makes the other one ill too. So they're closely connected to each other.
Мы здесь, в Казахстане, в Советском Союзе, не закроем Неваду. Давайте сначала закроем Семипалатинск, тогда Невада сама остановится.
We said we can't close Nevada test range from here in Kazakhstan, but what we can do is we can close Semipalatinsk test range, and once we close ours, maybe they will close theirs.
И когда остановился Семипалатинский полигон в августе 1991 года, то через год остановились испытания в Неваде. Потом остановились испытания на французском полигоне Моруруа. Потом китайский полигон остановился в 1996 году. И все 5 полигонов, до этого Новая Земля тоже вместе с нами остановилась, все 5 полигонов тогда прекратили свою работу.
So indeed, that's how it worked. First, the Semipalatinsk test range was closed in August of 1991. In a year, the test range in Nevada was closed. And then the French followed suit, and they closed their test range, Morwa, and the Chinese they closed theirs in 1996. So all in all 5 test ranges, including the one in Novaya Zemlya, which was closed at the time when Semipalatinsk was closed, went out of business.
И тогда нашим жестом нашего движения была открытая ладонь, протест. 5 континентов против 5 полигонов. Вот с таким лозунгом мы выходили на наши митинги во всем мире.
So at that time, we had a symbolic gesture, one palm with open fingers, symbolizing 5 continents that are against 5 test ranges. That was the symbolic gesture that we demonstrated at our public gatherings throughout the world.
Недавно я слышал, здесь выступал художник Куюков.
I heard that recently our artist, Mr. Kuyukov, gave a presentation in Washington.
Это человек, который родился практически на испытательном полигоне, рядом с испытательным полигоном, и родился он без рук, вообще напрочь.
This man was born practically on the test range, well, right next to the test range, and because it happened this way, he was born without both arms and became an artist.
Он рисует, держа кисть в зубах.
He uses his teeth to paint with the brush.
И хорошие картины, которые вот наше посольство выставляло где-то.
And he creates very nice art that actually was exhibited by our embassy recently.
Я помню, мы приехали в 90-м году в Японию в августе 90-го года, в день, когда упали бомбы. Это 9 августа на Хиросиму. И в Хиросиме, в городе Хиросиме состоялся большой митинг.
I remember that we visited Japan in 1990. In August of 1990, we visited Hiroshima, and that was actually on the day that marked the anniversary of the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. Was August 9, as I remember, and we held a big demonstration or a big gathering there.
Представьте, большая площадь, на которой сидят на теплом разогретом асфальте 3000 человек. Не стоят, а именно сидят.
Try to picture a huge square on the asphalt, on the warm asphalt, of which 3,000 people were sitting in protest. Actually, they were sitting, they were not standing.
Из какой-то такой импровизированной трибуны выступает Куюков.
And we had some kind of an improvised podium from which artist Kuyukov was speaking, addressing people.
И он сказал, жест нашего движения – открытая ладонь.
He said, the gesture, the symbolic gesture that we use in our movement is an open palm.
Я не могу повторить этот жест.
I cannot repeat this gesture.
Я прошу вас сделать его за меня.
I'm asking you to make it on my behalf.
И все 3000 человек встали и подняли вот так этот жест.
So all 3,000 people got up from their seats and lifted their palms just like that.
Вот такую сцену ее трудно придумать. Она жизнью режиссируется, создается, но нам удалось это увидеть однажды.
This is the picture that I wanted to paint for you, and this is the kind of picture that is difficult to imagine or make up in your mind. This is written by the great author, Life, that has its own script.
Я надеюсь, что все наши усилия по борьбе против ядерного оружия все-таки приведут человечество к хорошему результату.
So I do hope that all of our efforts in the realm of fighting nuclear weapons will lead to the good outcome in the whole world.
Но для этого в нем должны участвовать талантливые люди, такие как вот Кайрат Омаров, как наш художник Куюков и тысячи людей, которых я знаю и узнал во всем мире в этих наших общих акциях.
But in order for those efforts to be successful, we need to attract thousands of talented people to this movement. People such as Kairat Umarov, such as our artist Kuyukov, and thousands of others who are necessary, who are needed in order for these efforts to be successful.
Спасибо.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now there is a very brief amount of time for questions. And we need them to be questions, not statements. Ambassador Suleymanov will select the individuals. And our wonderful translator, if you ask the question in English, the translator will translate it to Russian. If you ask it in Russian, she will translate it in English and, of course, translate the ambassador's answer.
Thank you.
Сейчас выберите вопросы, на которые вы захотите ответить. Он попросил занять вопросы, не делая их заявлениями, а просто вопросами.
Ну, конечно. Oh.
Thank you for that very inspiring talk, and I'm delighted to meet you this evening. I wonder if you have a favorite poem, and if you do, if you have some lines of it committed to memory that you might recite for us this evening.
Он спрашивает, сказал, что я понравилось очень ваше выступление. Нет ли у вас любимого стихотворения, которое вы могли бы здесь процитировать? It will be very difficult to interpret.
Ну, понятно.
Может быть, оно есть в этом сборнике. Мы можем, я просто сказала, что я не берусь переводить поэзию. Так, походу. Может быть, из этого.
Если я начну читать свои любимые стихи, мы отсюда не уйдем.
Well, if I start reciting my favorite poems, we will never leave this hall.
Самое короткое.
Может быть, четверостишие.
Ага. Я когда-то написал стихи маме, когда я достиг определенного возраста, еще непреклонного. Вот. Я написал какие-то стихи обращения к своей матери.
I have written a poem addressed to my mother, and actually that was at the time when I was an adult, but I wasn't really far too advanced in age. So that's when I wrote a poem to my mother.
Вот хорошо, что вы напомнили мне.
It's very nice that you reminded me of it, actually.
Я как раз сейчас думаю о том, как написать такую небольшую книжку, обращенную к молодежи, которая бы воспитывала молодого человека.
Actually, I'm thinking right now of writing a small book that would address the issue of how young people should view older people and how they should, what kind of attitude they should have in life.
И я туда включу это стихотворение.
I think I will include this poem in that little book.
Но ее поймут только те, которые русский язык знают,
So, of course, this could only be understood by those who speak Russian,
и они соседу тогда переведут в двух словах.
and they can interpret maybe to people who sit next to them. Well,
О
I could tell
чем
you what
эта
it's about.
дорога? О любви, под открытым небом, неспешная закатность, позови меня в просторы те, где еще не был. Осенний грач, осенний гусь, мое крыло полмира отмахало и в реку Лимпопо перо макало, и в пряный ветер из цейлонских кущ. О чем эта дорога? Если прав, будь с гордым горд, он не отец пророка. Будь с робким робок, он тебе не раб. Я так и поступал, клянусь, дорога. Не всем, кто ждал, помог, ведь я не Бог. Что в силах одинокого поэта, на все вопросы не нашел ответа. Но людям я не лгал, хотя и мог. Вот так.
Дорогой Олжас, большое спасибо за такие добрые слова в мой адрес, в адрес моей семьи.
Dear Олжас, thank you for your kind words, very kind words that you said, addressed to myself and my family.
Я хочу всем рассказать буквально 2 слова. Мое первое знакомство с Олжасом Сулейменовым.
I'd like to tell you, all of you present here, just in a couple of words,
Это
how I
состоялось
met
в 1962 году
Сулейменов. Our meeting, we met in 1962
в городе Киеве.
in Kiev.
Я шел на стадион, на футбол.
I was actually going to watch a soccer game at the stadium.
Молодой человек. И по дороге на стадион зашел в книжный магазин.
So I was a very young guy, and on the way to the stadium, I stopped by in a bookstore.
И в этом магазине я стремился купить самую тонкую, самую нетяжелую книжечку стихов с собой, пока я дойду до стадиона.
And I wanted to buy the smallest, the lightest, the easiest to carry book of poetry that I could read on my way to the stadium.
Я
in
не
that
знал
store.
автора. Мне понравилась обложка,
I didn't know the author.
толщина.
I liked the cover, I liked the
И
thickness,
название.
and I also liked the name.
Олжас Сулейменов.
Олжас Сулейменов.
Ночь парижанка.
Ночь
Парижанка.
Ага,
Название.
Parisian Night.
И идя на стадион по дороге, я открыл ее, эту книжечку,
And on my way to the stadium, while I was
и
walking, I
понял,
opened the
что это
book,
моя судьба.
and I understood that this is my fate.
Потому что первые 4 строчки, которые я прочел, остались со мной на всю жизнь.
Because actually the very first 4 lines, the first stanza I read in that book stayed with me for the rest of my life.
Я советский человек, выросший в стране, где общество – это все,
I'm a Soviet man living in the country where society is everything.
в 1962 году прочел такие строчки.
And that's what I read in the poem back then in
Прошу прощения, что я
1962.
цитирую вас, Олжас.
And I apologize for quoting from you, Олжас.
Загнали кондуктора под потолок.
Well, the conductor, the train conductor or tram conductor has been forced to be at the ceiling.
Ужасное чувство локтя.
We have a terrible sense of elbow.
В каждом боку по локтю.
In every side you feel an elbow.
Я уважаю общество,
I respect the society,
но не массу.
but I don't respect the mass. Imagine
Уезжая в эмиграцию
Wow.
спустя много лет,
leaving to emigrate many
везя с
years
собой
later,
2 чемодана на члена семьи,
when I was very limited in how much baggage I could take, only 2 pieces of luggage per person,
мы взяли книги
and at that time we did
Олжаса
take
Сулейменова.
books by Олжас Сулейменов.
И я считаю, что моя библиотека имени Олжаса наиболее полная в Соединенных Штатах Америки.
And actually, I think that my library, named after Olžas, is the most comprehensive collection of Olžas poetry in the country.
Спасибо, Арнольд.
Thank you, Arnold.
Okay, with that, we may now proceed to two things. There are refreshments, which you are certainly urged to partake in. And there are also in the anteroom copies of Ambassador Suleymenov's latest book translated into English. And I understand that if you bring them to him, he will sign them, autograph them.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.